Bigger, more intense fires bring California to the edge. And now, faced with hundreds and hundreds of huge, hard-to-control blazes, the state of California is struggling with what could be, or probably will be, its most expensive firefighting season ever in recorded history. Burning through at least $285 million in the last 6 weeks alone, and up to $13 million a day. And with the worst of the fire season still ahead, lawmakers are scrambling to find some kind of way to pay for it all, and are considering taxing homeowners with a disaster surcharge. There is no more fire season as we know it. The fire season is now year-round, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger said while touring wildfires last month in Northern California. So, that means that we don't have enough resources. This crisis comes as California deals with a $15.2 billion budget deficit, and the governor cited firefighting costs as a major factor when he ordered wages deferred for state workers and laid off others recently to cut costs. Many fire budgets have been strained across the West because more fires are escaping initial attacks and now raging out of control. Bigger, more intense wildfires. Higher fuel and labor costs are also factors. Living on the edge. And then there are the millions and millions of people who have moved into fire-prone areas throughout the region over the last few decades. Actually, this has been going on for a while. Their presence has forced state and federal firefighters to react aggressively to spare lives and property. Just a decade ago, the state of California spent $44 million to fight fires for an entire year. The $285 million already spent this fiscal year, which began July 1st, is more than a whole year's worth of firefighting bills in 9 of the previous 10 years. For example, during the first days of July, at the height of the battle against thousands and thousands of lightning-sparked fires from intense electrical storms, California went through at least $13 million a day fighting the wildfires. That's more than the entire annual firefighting budgets of neighboring Arizona and Nevada. Under the new tax proposal, homeowners who live in higher risk areas would pay the most. Virtually everyone in California is in high risk. It's a statewide problem. It really, really is. More emergency funding. The California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection is borrowing more money to pay this year's firefighting costs because the state still remains without an overall budget. And largely because of the thousands and thousands of fires so far in California this year, the federal firefighting budget will be totally exhausted this week. And before its budget is replenished, the U.S. Forest Service will be forced to transfer money from many other programs to cover the firefighting expenses. Between 1997 and 2007, wildfires burned at least 8,000 500 square miles in California. That's an area approximately the size of New Jersey. The state of California is now seeking $910 million in emergency funding for the U.S. Forest Service to fight the continuing wildfires. Big fires are very costly fires. And now the changing face of wildfires. Fire officials in California and other western states contain all but about 2% of fires before they burn more than a few acres. Just until the last few years, wildfire costs increased at about the same pace as the rest of the economy. But now, it's all out of control. Well, even the economy. In some kind of ways. The world too, huh? The world politics and all that. Nationwide, fires burned more than 9 million acres last year, costing the federal government at least $1.4 billion. That was second only to 2006's $1.5 billion, which set the modern record for number of fires, acreage, and costs nationwide. Nevada's firefighting costs have went up drastically too, from $2.5 million 10 years ago to at least $10 million today. About what Arizona spends in a bad fire year. The state of California is suffering from the same thing everyone else is. Without question, without any question at all, America's wildfire situation has changed drastically. And it's not going to go back. So, the question for California is what to do now. The governor of California has proposed a 1.4% surcharge on residential and commercial property insurance premiums and risks in areas at high risk of fires, floods, or earthquakes. At least 80% of the state. There's that old number 8 again. Stuck in the figure 8. Democrats who control the legislature doubled those percentages in their budget proposal, somehow expecting to raise $280 million annually for emergency response costs. Under their plan, an average California homeowner would pay at least an additional $25.20 a year for living in a high danger area, or at least $13.50 for those in lower risk areas. This all adds up. More taxes than ever before. And another Democrat from San Diego has a separate proposal to charge another $50 a year to property owners in rural areas that fall within the state's firefighting responsibility, which amounts to at least 1/3 of California and includes nearly 1 million homes, with thousands and thousands more being built and planned for fire-prone areas, which of course that doesn't make any sense at all. Why keep putting houses and buildings and businesses in extremely dry, fire-prone areas? Doesn't make much sense. Here we go with this number. 29 states, including California, maintain a fund for responding to natural disasters. We can't afford not to fight fires. Homes and businesses and lives are at stake. These fires are only going to become more frequent and more intense. And these are more signs of the end times, transition days. And there are many, many signs.